will we will be free. For when the rising tide is turned in every London quarter, Parliament comes crashing down with Robert's Rules of Order.
Okay, so 19th?
Yeah.
All right. Whose day is...
I don't know.
Well, I think...
Let's do it this way. Heads, tails. Call it.
Tails.
Heads.
Okay, you're first. Well, then you get to decide.
I'll just read it
Okay.
out. Okay, welcome back to the Cult of RONR. Call the question, bitches. Today is Wednesday, February 19th, 2020. At least that's what they tell us on the calendar.
Yeah, you sit on a throne of lies. It really isn't.
You sit on a throne of lies, for you are a bagel.
No, if I'm sitting on a throne, I get a hip cramp. And if I sit on a throne, I gotta make sure I wipe and flush afterwards, but not in this case. Different throne. Are you ready for the question after all that craziness?
I am ready.
Okay, are you sure?
Well, right now, just give me a few more beers and then it'll be different.
Okay.
But
Okay, we gotta pause this. What the restart? My hips.
Why?
Because my hip.
oh, I'll just
Cramping up on
splice
me.
it.
Cramping up on me.
Maybe.
I don't know why it does that. It does.
You're getting old. You're getting old, son.
I'm getting too old for this shit.
I'm too old for this shit.
It's the arthritis.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
It's not the arthritis, it's bad labrums, but anyway. Okay, let's cut all that
You
shit.
need a hip replacement.
No, I need a hip implant.
Oh, okay.
Any case, okay.
Those are some nice hips. Very shapely. All right. Go continue.
After I get my bearings back.
Yeah. Your bearings.
Yeah, the ones that fell out of the hips, yeah. The ones that fell out, this is why the labrums are all screwed up. Anyway. Okay, are you ready for the question?
I am, again.
Are you sure, Giggles?
Oh, I'm sure.
Okay. Every member who has an opinion on a question should express it by vote, colon. A, and can be compelled to vote. B, but cannot be compelled to vote. Why the hell even ask this question? This is a cakewalk. C, and cannot abstain without a good reason which he must state. D, and has a right to explain if he abstains. Now, folks, I'm not even going to flip this over. I know what the answer is. So
I hope I don't fuck it up. B, right?
Yes.
Okay. You had me worried whenever you say it's easy.
I didn't even have to flip it over and know it's a B. I mean, this is come on.
Well, yeah. Well, remember the one though when we had the people who that isn't true in legislatures. Remember we talked about where they send out the sergeant or whatever to go drag somebody into the assembly. But what I'm more curious about is D. Now I know that wasn't the right answer, but what is the rules when it comes to explaining?
Okay, cross-reference 407, 12 to 15.
Because I know people like to do that.
Well, people like to do that, but usually they do it okay, when you're doing a roll call, people like to do that sometimes.
And you're not supposed to.
Right.
You're supposed to do it in debate, like, I am going to abstain on this because blah, blah. But once it comes up for vote, you're only supposed to say your vote, right?
Okay, dokie. This starts at 406. Voting procedure. Rights and obligations of voting. A member of arrears. We'll skip that part. Member in arrears because, let's face it, that's not relevant. One person, one vote. Top of 407. It is a fundamental principle of parliamentary law that each person who is a member of a deliberative assembly is entitled to one and only one vote on a question. This is true even if a person is elected or appointed to more than one position, each of which would entitle the holder to a vote. For example, in a convention, a person selected as a delegate by more than one constituent body may cast only one vote. An individual member's right to vote may not be transferred to another person, for example, by the use of proxies.
But later we know, and it says that the bylaws can supersede that.
The
But
bylaws
anyway.
can always supersede it, yes. Right of abstention. Although it is the duty of every member who has an opinion on a question to express... Okay, thank you. Yeah, there's a hole here.
I know, me too.
There's a hole in the page, folks. By his vote, he can abstain since he cannot be compelled to vote. By the same token, when an office or position is to be filled by a number of members, as is in the case of a committee where position is held by a board, a member may partially abstain by voting for less than all of those for whom he is entitled to vote. In other words, if you vote for up to, say, 6, and you only vote for 3, technically you're abstaining on the other 3. Okay, next line. Abstaining from voting on a question of direct personal interest. No member should vote on a question in which he has a direct personal or pecuniary, I can never say this word, pecuniary.
It's like me. What's the word I can't say?
Irrelevant.
No, irreverent.
Irrelevant.
No, relevant I can say.
Irreverent, yeah. Anyway, not common to other members of the organization. For example, if a motion proposes that the organization enter into a contract with a commercial firm of which a member of the organization is an officer and from which contract he would derive personal profit, there's that pecuniary again. Why can't they say physical? Be easier. The member should abstain from voting on the motion. However, no member can be compelled to refrain from voting in such circumstances. The rule on abstaining from voting on a question of direct personal interest does not mean the person should not vote for himself for an office of the position to which they're eligible.
Oh, here's the next page. Rule against explanation.
Yep. Okay, that's down on 408 to 16. Rule against explanation by members during voting. A member has no right to explain his vote during voting, which would be the same as debate at such a time.
Yeah, so you do it during debate.
Yeah.
There's one rabbit trail here that I want to run down before we're done. This thing, I have such a fundamental disagreement with Roberts here. And
Where are you looking?
I'm going back to the abstaining from voting on a question of direct personal interest.
Okay, with you.
It says you should, but you can't be compelled to.
Mm-hmm.
I do not agree with that.
I understand why, without even saying why.
Right.
I think I agree with you. By definition, that's meant. That it would be unethical to make a vote on something which you would personally gain from it.
In a way that's not common to the whole body, as
Correct.
it said.
Right.
And I'm going to give 2 examples, and this isn't to throw people under the bus. We're all us.
Wait a minute, let me get my car keys.
Oh, well. People who get elected to bodies, they're opening themselves and their names up to criticism, myself included. So,
it comes with the turf.
It comes with the territory, and it's nothing personal.
It comes with the turf, and they drop the turf on top of you.
For instance,
By pallet.
Nick voting for voting for giving himself that job at $75 an hour. He voted on it. Mm-hmm. Roberts cannot compel him not to, but to me that was highly improper.
It's very unethical, yes.
There's another reason he shouldn't have voted, but
it's as bad as Congress voted themselves a pay raise.
But that's that lost water under the bridge. But this came up before in the Oregon situation. Now, Mr. Caryn was being, or threatened to be, I don't know if he actually was, but he was at least under threat of being personally sued over his alleged interference as to what went on there. So he had some personal liability.
I'm thinking back on this because I used to be very familiar with that situation.
But I don't know. I think he was actually named in a lawsuit already. But if he wasn't,
I believe he was.
Yeah. And then at a later time, he became chair of the Judicial Committee, who decided they could rescind anything they want from Judicial Committee several ago. And he, as chair, had to make the ruling as to whether they could do that or not. But I'm thinking to myself, you're getting sued over this whole thing. You should not make that ruling.
When you're a party to the issue, you should recuse yourself by definition.
And him and I was brand new at that time. I still have those emails. And he says, well, Roberts doesn't require me to. And I was like, that was a shock to me. And I did look it up.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel so strongly about that. But Roberts does not require a recusal. And I think that is wrong.
If you're talking about something where, you're running for a position.
That's different.
That's different.
Because any member can run for the position.
Right. But at the same time, if you're talking about, as they say specifically here, if you would financially profit from it, or I would even extend it to say, if it puts you in a position of greater power or authority, you should consider you should recuse yourself almost automatically. Here's a case in point going on right now. The Supreme Court is currently set to hear arguments involving the issue of whether an electoral college member is bound by state law to vote for the candidate
that their primary or their vote, right,
who won the popular vote in that state, versus being what they call a faithless elector voting their conscience. Now, the reality of it is the founding fathers allowed for faithless electors by definition. The states are supposed to appoint electors, but they've deferred that over to the political parties nowadays, at least in Colorado. Colorado law specifically says that an elector will vote for the winner of the popular vote. That's in the revised statutes. The 10th Circuit, Federal Circuit, has thrown that out the window, saying no, you don't have, they don't have to do that. That's why it's in the 9th, out of Washington State, has said the opposite, and that's why the whole thing's coming before the court. Well, even though they're consolidating the cases, this is weird, but this is the way they're working it. Justice Sotomayor has recused herself from argument on the 10th case, but not the 9th, even though they're consolidating, which I'm not sure how this is going to work, because she has an association with one of the people that submitted a cure brief to the court on the 10th case. Now, it's correct for her to recuse herself on the 10th. No doubt about that. She's saying that there could be a personal relationship here, a conflict of interest. I'm stepping back. That's fine. I'm not sure about the 9th side of it, how they're going to consolidate. That's a procedural question. But that's an example of why you should recuse yourself.
But that falls under like bar rules, which I'm more familiar with. That's why I was shocked. Because I'm used to bar, like, judges recuse themselves all the time.
Right.
And like when we run conflict of interest checks at the law firm, I mean, there's the slightest thing could make you not qualified. And I see you eyeing me. I see you eyeing my very sexy hole-punched Robert's Rules and Brief.
I just have a separate standalone one.
The male gaze.
The male gaze. The male gaze. The male gaze. The male gaze. The male gaze. The male gaze. The male gaze. The male gaze
was on it.
I was trying to figure out why your dividers are so much bigger than the.
I like big dividers. I cannot lie.
Folks, I'm not going to touch that one with a 10-foot pole.
Oh boy!
Because
that's what she said.
There's lots of ways to take the divider comment and take it totally in the wrong direction, and I ain't going there.
But it's nice, isn't it? Very nice. But there's no little index. I'll make my own little. Okay, but anyway, yeah, that is interesting. But so I
agree with you in this case, though.
Yeah.
That there's a screw. That's a screw up in Robert's head fix.
That makes me uncomfortable.
Because frankly, you could swing it to vote yourself to get paid the Treasury with a behind-the-scenes deal to kick back a certain percentage of the people who are voting for it. Pure corruption. This allows it. That's wrong.
But and personally, no matter what Robert said, I always use the standard of avoid even the appearance of impropriety.
But not everybody has that sense of ethics either.
And I'm not giving myself any great credit for having it. I worked 20 years in law.
I am.
I think it comes from my professional background. That's just been ground into me.
Well, it's also just really, in a lot of ways, just good old-fashioned morality and common sense.
Well, and it keeps your ass out. Keeps your bacon.
Keeps your ass out of jail. Yeah.
I was gonna say keeps your ass out of bacon. Whatever. All right, you're the.
I have the gavel.
Oh, and you've got the little.
I even brought the base this time.
I don't have an acrylic base. I'll have to get one. I'm jealous. I'm pouting.
In any case, for the 19th of February, we call this one adjourned.
Fever! Let's hear the opposition side. Like a stubborn donkey's bray. All opposed? You say nay. Opposed! Opposed! The motion carries anyway.